Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the series where we turn a simple guitar riff into a fully produced track. Last time we laid down the drums for this project, but today we're moving on to the next essential piece, the bass. I'll be using Submission Audio Grove bass to lock in the low end and bring some weight to the track. We're going to talk about programming bass that not only complements the guitar, but really drives the rhythm section and adds essential groove to the whole track. Let's jump in and give this track the foundation it deserves. Well, I just got 10 minutes deep into this project and realized that OBS decided to freeze, so you didn't actually see or hear anything that I was doing. It appears to be okay, and I feel like I still have my cursor. So, we are programming the bass. Well, I guess I started programming the bass and then realized my computer took a crap on me. So, let's talk a little bit about what we did. So essentially, I loaded up Contact, and after a couple of moments of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, we decided on Grove bass. There's no particular reason for it. I just like this plugin, and so far, it seems to be working. I picked the low gain rock distortion setting, and I'm satisfied with it so far, so I guess we'll see how it plays out. I'm not necessarily married to it just yet. Now, the next step that I chose to take was to start with taking the kick drum from my drum track that we did yesterday, and I just pasted it into a new MIDI track. And so far, I've gone through and I just lined up the notes with the chord progression, and then we added some little slaps and pops right there. Let's hear what that sounds like isolated. Yeah, we could definitely do more with that. So I'm thinking another hit right there. We're going to just do another regular slap. And then another thing we talked about is how I like to enter MIDI notes while I'm doing this sort of thing. One thing that I find really helpful is over in the top left corner of your piano roll screen, there's this little headphone button. If you click that on, you'll start to notice that this little cursor on your piano roll starts lighting up. So let's say I hit a note. You can use your right and left arrow keys to navigate through the screen. And then let's say you want to hold down a note. And then you keep pressing the key on your MIDI controller. And then you hit the arrow until you get to the desired length. And then when you release the note on your MIDI controller, it will cut off the note. So you can enter notes that way, which I find to be incredibly helpful when it comes to adding the articulations, and really just any note, especially if you're not a fan of clicking things in. I also hate trying to go back and reminding myself of what the articulations are, so I just wrote down the articulations that I need, and we're going to rock from there. Let's see what it sounds like in context, because I want this to be kind of a rhythmic spot. What if we made this note, this slap, and then another? That sounds better. I feel like we could even be a little more obnoxious about it, and let's do a 30-second note right there. That needs to be longer, then I think it'll be good. Yeah, that sounds rad. Alright, so from the beginning. That's pretty rad. Okay, I'm happy with that. The articulation is really what makes these plugins sound good. If you just have one articulation, it's gonna sound fake. That's just because humans don't always play at one articulation. Same with like having it perfectly quantized or all the same velocity. There's just certain amounts of perfection that trigger red flags in the human brain, because humans and most organic creatures are not capable of perfection. So if you hear something perfect, your brain is like, either that's a computer, a robot, or an alien, and all of those things are not human, so I'm putting up my guard. Putting up your guard in that situation looks like, this doesn't sound real to me. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. All right, let's hear this, and let's hear this whole section in context. Yeah, that sounds cool. One thing that I find is incredibly important with not only the bass, but just any instrument that you play, when you're thinking in terms of rhythm and articulation, also think about what count you release the note on. So, like, not only when you start it, but when you stop it. So, for example, this note is going to hit on 1, and then it's going to cut on the and of 1. Same right here. So this one's going to hit on the and of 3, and it's going to cut on 4. A little bit of contrast between the bass and the drums. Sometimes starting from the kick drum and really adhering to the kick drum can make the whole thing sound a little bit sterile. I find it's really useful to add little pockets of flavor into the bass to kind of like really emphasize that the bass is also providing harmonic content. It's not just like a rhythmic liaison between the drums and the other harmonic instruments. It can really have its own character, and I think it's really important to showcase that in order to make everything sound a little bit more full and not so sterile. So now here, we're pretty much just gonna get rid of all this because that is the fill. What we could actually do is we could have the bass copy the drums instead of mirroring exactly what it's doing. From here, now I'm basically just kind of deciding based on what I hear how I'm gonna tweak it. The way that I played it on the guitar was like open A string, you hammer on the 5th, and then you pick the 5th, and then you hammer the 7th. So it'd be like A, D, D, A again, I believe. And so now I'm just kind of making judgment calls. Because it's kind of a fill, I'm really not terribly worried about it. So I'm just going to kind of leave it. So we have all of our bass parts up here, and then we have all of our articulations down here. Let's give it a quick listen and see how we like it. The payoff is huge. It's so much fun to hear it all come together. This is kind of where, like, especially when you have a guitar track and you have the drums and the bass, it starts really kind of coming to life. You hear a good majority of the context, and God, it's just so fun. Also, these bass plugins are insane. Submission Audio is kind of unmatched when it comes to these bass plugins, particularly like Grove Bass and Omnibass are my favorites. Eurobass 3 is also amazing, but I find myself gravitating towards Omnibass and Grove Bass pretty often with a lot of my stuff. But yeah, it looks like that is our bass track. I am really satisfied with that. Alright, now we got the bass programmed and locked in with the drums. In the next video, we're moving on to the guitars, so you definitely don't want to miss that. If you like this video and you want to see more content like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can stay updated on everything that I got going on. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram for more behind the scenes, tips, and more exclusive content. And by the way, if you're into the style of music you're hearing in this series, make sure to check out my bands Gloomchild and the Polymer Mode to hear what I have going on with my own music. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, and all your other favorite streaming platforms. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.